I think peace lilies have always been quite popular indoor plants. Lately, I've read about how they're like one of the top indoor plants to clean the air and remove toxins and things from houses. So it's definitely an extra good plant to have. And I wanted to share a few tips on how to keep it really healthy and growing and as pretty as ever by flowering as much as possible. This one here is a great example of how important finding the right position for a plant is. When I first got it, I bought it from a supermarket. It was in a little basket with a few other plants. It was actually on the last chance saloon shelf in the supermarket, really half dead and everything. I think it was after Mother's Day, and so they were just sort of selling off the last ones that hadn't been bought. So I got it, and at that point, we lived in a really cute cottage. It was very cute, but it was quite dark and cold, especially in the winter. A bit wet as well, sort of damp. Not the most ideal place. And I placed him on a kitchen windowsill, which wasn't very sunny at all. And he just sort of languished there for a few years. When we were moving house, I popped him outside. It was May, and I left him out there for a bit just to sort of decide what to do with him. I don't like killing plants or anything, so I just wanted to give him a chance. Just popped him outside to see what to do. And a few weeks later, when I went to check on the plants again, he'd actually grown lots of green, glossy leaves, like lots of new growth. And so I took him with us. I repotted him in a little pot and popped him onto the kitchen counter in our new house, which was right next to a really bright lit window, but not on the windowsill. So it was still indirect sunlight, which is what these plants need. And he just flourished. Within a few months, he was quite pot bound, and that's the trick to get him to flower. You want him to grow really big and strong, lots and lots of roots, but quite pot bound, really tight fit, so that they can just shoot up lots of flowers. And so within a few months, I had my first flowers with him. It was two beautiful big ones. And that was just such a great experience. He stayed on that kitchen counter for a few years, 2 years, I think, and then he got to be too big to the point where, he would be hurt by steam or other things that were going on in the kitchen, just cookery in general, because he is really large. I'm not sure if you can see how big he is, but he is very, very big. And so we had to move him into the living room. And also that's also quite good because it just helps clean out the air in the living room, which is a wonderful thing. I put him in this windowsill, this door, not a windowsill, this door, glass door in front of it where this other plant is. They sort of stood next to each other, sharing the space. And he was really happy until summer hit, when the sun got a bit hotter, and suddenly two of his leaves got really scorched. So he had to be removed back into this corner, where he's been happy until now. And now we are in January, so it's been 6 months he's been here, pretty much, thereabouts. And I've just noticed that I think because it's gotten colder, the radiator that he's sitting next to is blasting out a bit more heat. And so some of his leaves are turning a bit, the tips are turning a bit brown, which is always an indication that something isn't quite right with him, I think. So I'm going to move him back to that glass door until summer again. And in the meantime, with these sort of leaves, it's not a problem. These plants are actually sort of really wetland plants. They live in boggy areas, that's where they come from. And so they do often get these sort of brownishness on the tips of the leaves. And all it takes is, you can just easily remedy it if you think they're unsightly, just by snipping. Sort of, I just can do this one-handedly. Here we go, snip. Sort of try to follow the lines of the leaves, the natural lines, just to make it look more natural. Just snip off the brown bits, and then it's pretty much as good as new. You can't really tell. There's some other ones down there. I'm gonna go and have a go at all of them, I think. Just snip off the bits. I'll do the rest of them later. But yeah, and also if they're in like a dry position and you really can't move them, then the great thing to do is to give them a bit of a mist. I've got a little mister here I bought in Aldi. And you just sort of go and give it a bit of a drink, because also these flowers, they drop a lot of pollen. You see all that stuff on the leaf? It looks really unsightly, and it's actually just flower pollen. So what I'll do is I'll take a little soft cloth and just wash off the pollen as well, because they can just get really dusty and dirty, and they are such wonderful, they've got such beautiful big leaves and just need to be kept in a good condition. So I'm going to go over them with a soft cloth as well and get all the pollen off once they've had a bit of a drink through their leaves too, this way. So keeping their leaves really lush. Do this about once a week or so. And that's about it. That's all it really takes. I mean, they just need a drink really quite frequently. This one in particular, because he's so large, he does need more water than smaller ones would. I tend to keep him in this sort of pot, and he's got like a little dish underneath. And when I can see that's completely dry, I might give it a little bit and then give him some water. I tend to give him maybe half a cup of water a day. But obviously, if there's still water in the dish underneath, I won't water him that day. So I think it depends on the temperature also, because obviously they drink more when it's warmer. So if the heater is banging out loads of heat, he'll obviously want a bit more to drink. And they are real water lovers, so I don't leave them to die down or wilt. That's one thing you can do if you want to make sure that you're not overwatering them. You can let them die down and then see them resurrect themselves with water. But I just think that's a bit, in my opinion, it's a bit unkind, because it kind of makes them suffer a bit, and I would like to keep them from being stressed as much as possible so they can just grow and be happy and concentrate on producing flowers. In the summer, I get between 12 and 14 flowers at a time. So they'll be constantly dying off and producing new flowers. So we get so many. I'll tell you to do a little video during the summer when it's really in bloom. But it's a beautiful sight to see all those beautiful white flags everywhere sticking up. Really stunning. And of course during the winter there's less. I tend to have no less than 2 though at a time. So it's still nice, and they are such pretty flowers, even though they produce a lot of pollen. But really lovely. And fresh and clean looking too. Beautiful peace lily. So I hope that helps. Any questions, I'll do my best to answer. But yeah, the main thing is just position. Just move it around until you find the right place, and make sure it's in indirect sunlight, but that it always gets light. Because even in this position here, it would still get loads of light from the window, that big window door, and another window that's directly opposite it. So it's never been in a dark place, and I think that's what really counts.